you go out of your way to say, well, half of it's hers.
Yeah,
well, half of it is hers.
You sound like
I know, but I
you
mean,
know.
could you say that she's disappointed with a...
Well, because I say that
selling our place.
because sometimes if we don't agree, I say, well, I'm just going to sell my half, and then say, I hope you like who you're living with.
Don't get me wrong. The reason why I looked at you so strangely was not because you said half the house was yours, because none of the house is mine. It's all in Danielle's name. I don't know anything. I get nothing. These guys, they're acting like, it's all in their name. Nothing's of mine. Nothing.
We didn't.
But I had, but tradition is you offer, so people in the building can, you let them have first shot at buying the apartment.
Yeah.
A couple of people called me, but I never heard from them, so.
Right of first refusal.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard back from them, so now I'm going to turn it over to Heidi Berger, and somebody's going to be living in a penthouse on Central Park West.
There you go.
So, I could see you and Danielle in this apartment.
You could?
Yeah.
How much is
a
it?
butler in a maid outfit.
By the way, I'm still angry at Bernie. All kidding aside. No, I'm being serious now.
Reveal yourself to be the total puss.
Hold on
Shut
a
up.
second. Hold on a second.
25 FDR, Fear to Peer, sponsored by Gillette, October 2nd.
You know what Bernie told me last week?
No.
I go to the mountains every single weekend.
Sure.
Because my parents have a house up there. It's fun up there, Bernie says, oh, yeah, I used to go to the mountains, too, I go up there to play softball, to swim, hang out at the pool. Bernie went up there to terrorize the Hasidim.
That's not true.
He would go from bungalow colony to bungalow colony. What? Did you?
That's an out-and-out, bust-out lie.
You son of a bitch. Did you not tell me last week that you went up there on weekends?
I did not. We fled the projects in the South Bronx to get away from the crime, and that's why we went up to the mountains. While we were there, we did perpetrate some acts of terror on my Hasidim brothers and sisters. While they were saying their Saturday morning prayers, we'd be lurking in the trees and throw some dirt bombs, and then they chased us all afternoon and would not give up. That did happen.
Yeah.
But that's not why we went up there. So you mischaracterized it from the beginning.
You went up there to get away from the blacks.
From the crime? What do you mean blacks? What are you talking about? From the crime and the grime of the South Bronx and the projects. Come on, I was a little white kid.
What's going to happen in this fight?
I'm going to beat the hell out of you.
I'm long and I'm lean. I'll make you my queen. I'll take your life and then I'll take your wife. How about that? I'm going to be Hebrew snot, blood, and teeth in those people's pancakes on the table right next to the ring. That's what's going to happen.
That's pretty good, Bern.
Well, that's what's going to happen.
No, listen, I'm obviously not the poet that Bernie is. I've never read Robert Frost Stevenson in my life, but what's that? Robert Frost Stevenson. I love his work. I'm going to hit Bernie with so many combinations, he's going to look like a safe. How about that one?
You're coughing up fur balls. You're such a puss.
What's that?
You heard it.
I didn't hear what, huh? 27 after the hour, Pat Buchanan's coming up.
Honey, those old...
No, know what's happens occasionally in these markets.
Right.
We're on Money Talk Radio.
Yeah.
something.
BB.
WWAB.
Yeah.
And it's at
Money Talk, right?
Yeah, Money Talk Radio. It's at 860 on your AM dial. Not up there where the police calls are, the dogs bark.
Yeah.
Exclusive financial news and information station for the Philadelphia market. I probably didn't endear myself to our listeners in Philadelphia when I suggested yesterday that I was rooting for Tampa Bay to beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Fair enough.
I'm not going to, pretend I'm an Eagles fan when I'm not. So, I didn't want bad things to happen to them, but I didn't want, they didn't win, that's all. What are the headlines, Chuck? Then we're going to talk to Buchanan.
Quickly, the Washington Post says the Army has ordered that Guard and Reserve tours of duty in Iraq be extended to a full year. 3 American soldiers injured today. Humvee hit a landmine west of Baghdad. Yesterday, a soldier injured in a mortar attack north of Baghdad. A boost for the governing council. Iraq's foreign minister has become the country's first envoy at the League. The Arab League, since the fall of Saddam Hussein, finally was seated. Other members accepting him after hours of debate. That ended a big controversy. And the UN chief, Kofi Annan, making a new push to get member countries to unite behind a plan to stabilize Iraq. This resolution, for a multinational force there on the ground.
Kofi Annan and Tony Blair both ought to be working for Donald Trump down in one of his casinos greeting people or something. That's a joke. All right, here now, former presidential candidate, now the host of Buchanan and Press with Bill Press, Pat Buchanan. Good morning, Mr. Buchanan.
Hi, Don. How you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Very good.
Did you ever see your sister Did you ever see a tape of your sister with Bill Maher?
No, you told me to see her, and I understand she was on a second time, and I didn't see that either, and I understand she's doing a good job.
What kind of relationship do you have with your sister? This is not good, Pat.
Well, she doesn't watch me on television either, but no, I don't know exactly when she's on, and I've never seen Maher's new show, but again, I've heard an awful lot of people comment on it.
Well, your sister it was such a shock, because I just remember when she ran your campaign, and she was always pretty serious, you know?
Right.
She was a scream.
Well, she's a funny, tough gal. There's no question about it, and she did a good job for me. I'm sure she can hold her own. My guess is that program's pretty stacked against her, isn't it?
Well, no, not really. I didn't get that impression. It was my wife who pointed it out to me about how funny your sister was, and obviously she's bright, but, I mean, I sound like I'm, you know, a Babe Buchanan butt boy, and maybe I am, but I mean, but it's not good that you haven't taken the time to see it.
No, I ought to take a look at it, but she ought to tell me exactly when she's going to be on, because she doesn't tell us ahead of time. I think she just heads out there to the coast, and frankly, Bill Maher must be very good to her. He brings her out there, and I'm sure puts her up for a night or two, and then brings her on the show, and she enjoys it, obviously.
The president spoke the other evening. What was he saying?
Well, he was saying a very simple thing. It's not so much what he was saying, but what the world heard, which is, look, we need help. We can't do it by ourselves. And that's the message the United States sent out when the president went to the UN, and it is an uncertain trumpet, quite frankly. The president said the UN was going to be irrelevant if they didn't join us in Iraq, and now he's going back to the UN hat in hand for help. I think, Don, we are at really the real crossroads here as to whether the United States is going to put a lot more troops into Iraq or whether we're going to start with our exit strategy. And my guess is the president has split with Rumsfeld and the neocons and is about to begin the American withdrawal from Iraq. I don't think he wants to have American troops being killed at the rate of, say, 4 or 5 a week and being wounded at the rate of 40 or 50 a week next summer as we go into that campaign. So I think this is historic.
What do you think he ought to do?
I think that I think that basically I don't believe the war was necessary. I never did. I don't think Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction or nukes. I don't think he had a hand in 9/11. I don't think he was plotting to do a thing to us. I think he was contained, and I think we could have contained him and deterred him the rest of his life. So I don't think we needed to go to war. I think it was an unnecessary war. Now that we are there, in my judgment, it is not a vital interest of this country. I don't think the American people should pay $87 billion this year and Lord knows how much after that and get our kids killed simply to build a democracy in Iraq. We want one thing from that country. We don't want them attacking our people or attacking us or threatening our interests. And if we get that, I think we ought to begin a rapid phase out from Iraq. I know after the getting in there, it is a tremendous risk. But if those are the two choices, I would say let's begin to move out rather than go in any deeper.
You know, it turns out you were right, you and others, that, wasn't any reason to go in. There weren't any weapons of mass destruction, all of the things you just said. And so my question is, why didn't the president know that? Or, I mean, he must have had that information presented to him and rejected it.
I think that's right. It's not as though people say, well, the Pentagon didn't present him with this possibility of what's going to happen now, but he could have watched Buchanan in press in the afternoon, and we were running 2 hours a day then, and seeing these arguments presented, we gave both sides of every question. We talked and said it could be a Gaza Strip and a West Bank for the United States. We may have our own Lebanon. I think this, Don, I think that Cheney and Rumsfeld and the neoconservatives in the administration and outside prevailed upon Mr. Bush after the victory in Afghanistan, said in effect, look, Mr. President, you are going to be the Churchill of your time. You're going to make the right decision here and go get rid of the Nazis before they really come to power and threaten us. And I think the President signed on and bought into it and agreed with it. And my guess is he's sitting down there at that ranch in Crawford, and he's thinking, what did I do? Why did we get into this? Why did I go all the way in? And now he doesn't know exactly what to do. His situation, Don, reminds me of LBJ around 1967, when the decision was, look, are we going to give Westmoreland 200,000 more troops, or are we going to have to start writing this investment down and write it off? The Bush presidency is on the line, in my judgment, in Iraq, and it will take a big, big man, frankly, to turn around. Rumsfeld's out there. They're all saying, well, we made a mistake when we pulled out of Lebanon. I was with Ronald Reagan. He made a blunder putting those Marines into the middle of that civil war. We had all manner of Muslims fighting each other, and Amal militia, and Christians, and Hezbollah. And we got 240 guys killed, Marines. But Reagan had the courage, in effect, to admit a mistake and say, our investment here is not that great. It doesn't justify a war. I'm not sending good money after bad and good men after the men we brought home in body bags. I'm leaving. And he took the hit. And the president's got to sit down, I think, and pray on this and determine whether it is a wise investment for us to keep going in here any deeper.
I'm talking with Pat Buchanan, host of Buchanan and Press. Is it Buchanan and Press?
It's Buchanan and Press, and we got Conan O'Brien on tonight, and your friend Brokaw on tomorrow night, Don. It's on at 6 o'clock, and ask Brokaw when you have him on tomorrow who took him to dinner out at Lestake on his first visit to D.C. to cover Richard Nixon.
No, I suspect it was you.
Yep.
Tom Friedman wrote about a year ago that, which is his theory, obviously, that the real reason we went into Iraq was in response to September 11th, and that the president felt that we needed to prove to the world that we were willing to risk American lives and lose them, and smack around somebody over there in the Middle East, and this was the easiest place to go and do it, and to demonstrate that we did have resolve and that we weren't going to allow a bunch of Saudi Arabians to fly airplanes in the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and so on and kill all these various Americans, and that it was about that and about Israel.
Well, I think he's partly right. There's no doubt Wolfowitz came into the president's office after 2 or 3 days after 9/11 and said, forget about Afghanistan, let's do Iraq. And they said, why? He said, because it's doable. Afghanistan will be a tougher nut to crack. And there was clearly an agenda of the neoconservatives that they had before 9/11 that they brought to the president's table and fed to him. I do think this. The president was sold on the idea that I believe the war on terror, the one running down al-Qaeda, is separate from the axis of evil, Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. The argument for them is they're on the way to weapons of mass destruction and maybe nuclear weapons, and the regimes have to be dumped over before they get those weapons, otherwise they will use them. Why do we pick Iraq rather than Iran and North Korea? Well, quite frankly, because it is doable. We could roll over Iraq. Everybody knew it. We could march up there with that depleted army and take it over. And I think President Bush was sold this as a target of opportunity, which would be a second great triumph and success. And then the intelligence over there about what might happen afterwards, they said, don't worry about that. We're going to be liberators. Democracy will sweep the Middle East. They sweetened the package, and he bought it.
This agenda you're talking about, what exactly do you mean?
Well, the agenda of the neoconservatives was, even in the 90s, they went to Clinton and they sent a letter to him and said, if you go after Iraq and take down Iraq and get rid of Saddam Hussein, we will support you. There's this fellow Wormser over at, I think he's over at State now. He said in January of year 2000, the United States and Israel should jointly attack 5 countries in order to demonstrate our power in the Middle East. The neoconservative agenda is this. They think we are at war with Islam, and the only way we're going to defeat them is go in and knock over 5, 6, 7 regimes and democratize the place and do like we did with Western Europe and Japan, the Japanese Empire. And that's the only way America's going to be secure, and it's the only way Israel's going to be secure. And they think this is our moment in history when the Soviet Empire collapsed. We are the great imperial power. I think they sit down there in their little magazines, in their little offices at AEI, and dream up these grand visions, which when they conflict with reality end in disaster. And I think that's what happened. And I think they got a perfect opportunity with 9/11 to present their little agenda to the president, and he bought it. And now we're paying a hellish price, and so is the president.
What happens if we pull out of Iraq? What happens to the country and what happens to their oil?
Well, I wouldn't worry about the oil. The people in Iraq, quite frankly, there's only one thing you can do with oil, and that's sell it to industrial nations. I mean, Libya, Iran, Iraq were all hostile to us, and they're all desperately trying to sell us oil. I would not worry about the oil, but I do believe you have a real potential for disaster there. I think you could have the Shiites and the Sunnis fighting for power. I could see the country break up. We not only knocked over the regime, we have destroyed a state. And so there is no state there on which to build. But Don, the question now is not among good choices. It's among whether you go in there deeper and try to build a democracy, which, I don't know exactly what they mean. If it means one man, one vote, the Shiites will run the place. Or whether you start moving in the other direction. And so there are no good choices, and anyone who tells you that things are going to be fine if we pull out is probably deceiving you, because I think it could be very bad in there. But we got ourselves in there. I mean, it was not good in Vietnam when we pulled out. I mean, it was a horror show in Cambodia. There was a Holocaust of the Cambodian people. All our friends in Vietnam were executed or put in these concentration camps. So it's not going to be good, but I'll tell you what, it'll be a lot worse if we go in and fight a 5-year war and then pull out. I mean, look what happened to the French who fought for 8 years in Algeria, and all the people who worked with them and fought with them.
Or 20 in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's all those years in Vietnam. Everybody then that sides with you and commits to you is finished. But our problem in Iraq is this, Don. In Vietnam, whether you liked it or not, the Vietnamese people were with us. Hundreds of thousands of young Vietnamese soldiers died fighting the VC and NVA. Do you see any evidence that the Iraqi people are willing to fight and die in the hundreds of thousands beside the Americans to build the American idea of democracy?
Back to the neocons for a second. Are you saying essentially that they exploited September 11th for the security of Israel? Is that the bottom line?
I'm saying what the neocons did was exactly. They exploited September 11th for their grandiose vision of Middle Eastern empire, for the security and safety of Israel, and for their whole agenda, worldwide agenda, where they want the United States to be the unilateral power that tells the whole world what to do. They saw 9/11 as a golden opportunity. Their major first objective was Iraq. It is what Mr. Woolsey, who is on Chris Matthews tonight, he calls it World War IV. Norman Podhoretz calls it World War IV. This guy that runs that Johns Hopkins Center calls it World War IV. I mean, when did we in the United States of America, we people, decide we wanted to fight World War IV? I mean, this clash of civilizations, Huntington talks about at Harvard, this is something we in America, because we are so secure, we have so much, we have nothing to gain by war, that we ought to avoid. And this is my whole philosophy. When the Russians went home, we should have gone home. There was nothing in this world we need as long as those people in the Soviet Empire no longer are coming for us. And we didn't. Instead, we went out on our own vision of empire.
Wasn't September 11th really a declaration of war? We didn't really have any choice. I mean, do you buy the idea of a global jihad?
Well, I do believe this. The Islamist terrorists, fundamentalist radicals, want the United States. They want three things. They want the United States out of Saudi Arabia and out of the Middle East, stop propping up regimes they think are corrupt. They want our culture basically expunged and expelled because they think it's corrupt and ungodly and all the rest. And they want us to stop supporting Israel. They came over here to kill us because these are the objectives they seek. Now, in my judgment, you've got to, when people want to fight you, you have no choice but to oblige them. But the question is how? Do you really want to march into the middle of the Middle East, seize their sacred capital of Baghdad, sit your army down there, 130,000 men, no longer with the carrier support and the aircraft and the Abrams tanks, but where every nutball in the Middle East can come over there and get a one-on-one shot against an American soldier guarding a bank? We put our army in the wrong place. It is out there. It is exposed. I think Bush, up until he gave that axis of evil speech, was fighting the war against al-Qaeda exactly the right way. He was working with the Allies. We were running them down. We were getting their funds. We were wrapping them up and rolling them up. We were shooting them in Afghanistan. They did not perpetrate a single act of terror on American soil. But look where they planned their acts of terror, Don. They didn't plan 9/11 in Baghdad. They planned it in Munich. They planned it in the United States. They planned it inside democracies because we are wide open.
Oh, it's a mess. Finally, did you see Madonna kiss Britney Spears?
No. I didn't know if I could have handled the shock.
One of the whole press saw it.
He probably applauded, stood and applauded.
Yeah, I kind of like him. I like both of you, but I mean...
Well, you're very kind. You're very kind.
All right, man, thanks.
Okay, I always enjoy doing it. You take it easy.
Thanks, Pat. Pat Buchanan, the host of Buchanan and Press. That's on 6 o'clock on MSNBC. It's good. Nice. I mean, I know he has a position, but which I mostly agree with this morning. But I like him, don't you?
Very much. Absolutely.
And his sister, I'm telling you, his sister's that's not good, but he's not saying that.
No.
But she's a scream. I mean, you'd think she'd be she looks like Gilda Radner when Gilda Radner used to dress up like Barbara Walters, but she really is funny, man.
Wow. Tough broad.
She is, isn't she?
Yeah.
But she was sitting between two comedians on the... Well, first of all, you know I like Bill Maher, so...
I think she could kick Serena Williams' butt.
She was really good. I mean, she was just, man, I was shocked. Oh, anyway. 10 minutes out of the hour.
Roland, I know you got two. 1, 2, 3, hit it.
Imus in the morning.
What can a haircut teach us about working with small businesses? Listening is vitally important. It's better when you work with someone you trust. We can learn a lot from the world around us and from each other. At Wachovia, we know that running a small business isn't easy.
That ever since Norfolk Bank started opening branches in Manhattan a couple of years ago, that nearly every bank on the planet has tried to follow Norfolk Bank here. Even the old New York banks have busy aggravating everybody the past 20 years are starting to wake up. Some of these banks actually even answer the phone now, you know, like they do at Norfolk Bank.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they'll be saying, hi, how are you? They go in there. It's like they do at Norfolk Bank. Norfolk Bank, with their little green signs littering up half the street corners of Manhattan, have made banking in this town a semi-pleasant experience. Nearly 100,000 New Yorkers have brought over $3 billion into North Fork's new branches since they got here in 1998. All run by John Cannon, one of the brighter guys in the country. And, one of the few financial guys who's not going to wind up in handcuffs. Started with an ATM machine in a deli on Long Island here a few years ago, and now look at it. You know that deposits at North Fork are growing by nearly $1 billion a year?
Good Lord.
So you gotta just walk in and find out if they're full of it or not. So just check it out, Norfolk Bank. If you're in Soho, Midtown, maybe you got some fancy uptown address. You'll probably trip on one of North Fork's branches next time you take a walk, so stop in, see for yourself. Member FDIC. Although I have noticed that all of the signs just simply say North Fork. So if you didn't know what it was,
Yeah.
but apparently it's working for him.
Must be.
North Fork Bank, check them out. All right. Well, you can sign I want you to take home your share of $350,000 cash this month in their Mansion Win game. You also have a chance to win $10,000 on the bonus wheel and an extra $5,000 in 4 weekly drawings. You need to be a Players Club member to play, and if you're not a Players Club member, don't worry. You go to Mohegan Sun, sign up into the drawing at the same time. Membership is free and the rewards are amazing. It's always a good time to visit Mohegan Sun, so take a day or two this week, get away. It's a destination resort. Stay at the hotel. Gorgeous hotel, 34-story, 1,200-room luxury hotel. Huge shopping center there, a whole bunch of restaurants. I mean, you would never have to leave. On October 2nd, Deborah McLennan's going to be in a wolf den. Yeah, singing the blues. Beautiful. Take exit 76 off I-95 in Connecticut, then go up to 79A on 395, and follow the entrance there to the front of the hotel. Mohegan Sun, we're in Big Wamba.
It's back to school time and the kids have us all shopping. New school supplies and clothes are on everyone's list along with groceries for a hearty lunch. Keep your kids smiling at lunchtime with a snack from Drake's Cakes. There's no better way to light up the day than with a Drake snack. Ring-dings, devil dogs, yodels, and funny bones have a way of making school fun. Pick up a box of Drake snacks for the kids today. And don't forget to enjoy one of those great treats yourself. Send the kids back to school with a sandwich you know they'll eat. Kids can't resist the great taste and soft feel of Wonder Bread, New York's #1 bread. Whole grains are great for nutrition, but if the kids don't eat it, what's the use? Make lunchtime a nutritious and fun time for your kids. Wonder gets it done on both counts. Baked every night in the heart of Queens, Wonder's freshness has kept it the top-selling bread in New York for decades. Don't settle for less. Buy the best for your family. Remember the Wonder.
This doesn't look like too tough a plumbing job, ma'am. Just stand back behind me there while I stoop and bend under the sink.
Wow. I didn't know jeans could just burst apart like that.
It's hard to say what's worse, missing something you wish you'd seen or seeing something you wish you hadn't. Do neither. Get this week's TV guide for an exclusive preview of the new fall lineup, which shows are sure hits, which are sure misses. The new TV guide. We see everything. Mix and match. We're a nation of mixers and matchers. Clothes, furniture, food. Not only is it fun, it really saves money. And now Travelocity introduces a new way to mix and match by giving you access to special deals when you book your flight and hotel together. So you can mix and match the hotel you want to the very neighborhood with the flight you want to the very seat and save even more than if you book them separately. Mix, match, save. Travelocity.com or AOL keyword travel.
It is 7 minutes now until the hour here on the IMS Morning Program. MSNBC, you really can't trust them in most cases because when they say they have these great clips, often they aren't. But they have Juan Williams. Is he still the Washington Post, or?
I believe he's with Fox News. He may be with the Washington Post.
Okay. Asking Senator Kerry a question in last night's debate. Let's roll that now.
You voted to authorize the President Bush, to threaten the use of force in Iraq. In fact, as Senator Graham pointed out, you voted to authorize the use of force at President Bush's discretion. To some, it may seem that you're trying to get out of a vote that's now unpopular with many in the Democratic Party. Is that the way we should perceive it?
Absolutely not. The vote is the vote. I voted to authorize. It was the right vote. And the reason I mentioned the threat is that we had to give life to the threat. If there wasn't a legitimate threat, Saddam Hussein was not going to allow inspectors in. Now, let me make 2 points, if I may. Ed questioned my answer. The reason I can't tell you to a certainty whether the president misled us is because I don't have any clue what he really knew about it or whether he was just reading what was put in front of him. And I have no knowledge whether or not this president was in depth. I just don't know that. And that's an honest answer, and there are serious suspicions about the level to which this president really was involved in asking the questions that he should have. With respect to the question of, the vote, let's remember where we were. If there hadn't been a vote, we would never have had inspectors. And if we hadn't voted the way we voted, we would not have been able to have a chance of going to the United Nations and stopping the president, in effect, who already had the votes and who was obviously asking serious questions about whether or not the Congress was going to be there to enforce the effort to create a threat. So I think we did the right thing. I'm convinced we did.
Sir? What's not? I mean, what's the matter?
I had some trouble following.
Next time, vote your conscience. Bottom line.
That's it.
Well, no, I understand what he's pointing. Well,
I
I think
see what
it is
his point is.
incomprehensible.
Can you explain it to us?
He voted. He voted to authorize the president to use force because he thought that would force them to then allow inspectors in, and but it didn't. So then we had to use force. So, but I guess I don't make any sense, am I?
I don't get it.
I think you made as much as the senator did.
Well, in other words, that was the only vote available. So he voted to, he voted, I guess, hoping he wouldn't have to use force, hoping that would
With the motivating to force the hand of Saddam.
exactly. So that was his point.
Well done. Nicely done.
Well, he's not going to be president anyway, so why are we even discussing it?
That's the sound of a normal cell phone call.
Ashley, how do you know?
Good to see you.
So, 2 years ago, take me through that again.
It was an early morning, and like the mayor said, beautiful blue skies. I remember looking out the window that morning, and
Where were you?
I was in my apartment.
Okay.
I had just gone for a run.
In
Central
Manhattan?
Park, yeah.
Okay.
I'd just gone for a run in Central Park, and was getting ready to go to work at MSNBC, heading across the river for about an hour commute, and sure as blazes, I had NBC News on. I usually watch the Today Show in the morning, and the WNBC cut-in came in, and they started showing the pictures of the smoldering North Tower. And
What did you think then? Nobody knew exactly what it was.
well, the first thing I think is when anything happens, is the first thing I think of is, get the right clothes, get more cell phone batteries, get a charger, and boot it. Get down to the story, because this was going to be an enormous story. A plane flying into a tower.
But did you know that initially that it was a plane? Because we were sitting here as well, and we thought it was a fire.
Right. I think it probably took about 10, 15 minutes before Jane Hansen, who's the anchor of the local show, started talking about reports that it might be a plane, it might be a small aircraft.
Right.
Regardless, this was going to be a big story. Small aircraft, projectile, whatever it was causing a lot of trouble.
Then it was the thought too that was, remember, it was an accident, right?
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I thought for sure this is an accident and it's a calamity and there's going to be trouble. And so even though MSNBC staff anchor shows all the time, they also serve as field reporters when stories are big. I remember when the Concorde crashed, I immediately went to France and covered that story as a field reporter for a week and a half.
Yeah.
So it was the same sort of thing, and I was heading down to do the story, and then sure enough, didn't take long. I was almost at the door, and I saw the explosion live.
So,
second one.
So then you went down there.
So then I went down there, and actually I had my trip down to.
How did you get down there?
Well, this is the story I think that might have saved my life. Actually, I went down to the subway because that's the quickest way to get downtown in Manhattan, especially when there's a problem.
Yeah.
And down to the subway, I might have spent about 7 minutes trying to get a train, and heard an announcement underneath, underground, saying all subways have stopped in Manhattan due to an emergency downtown. So I immediately ascended and got back to street level and hailed a cab who said he wasn't going anywhere near the Trade Center. I said, take me as close as you can. It took me about 40 blocks north of it, and then I ran the rest. And I think that 7 minutes might have just been enough time for me to be, a block away from the North Tower when it came down. I watched the South Tower coming down as I was running towards it. And I remember specifically how unusual everyone was before the towers had fallen. Taxi cabs had stopped right where they were, flung open the doors, and the radio casts were blaring whatever the news was, and people were crowding around the taxis so that they could hear what was going on. And at the same time, we had this perfectly clear view of the smoldering towers. And when the south one fell, which was the first one to fall, I was on the phone. I had actually gotten one of my phone calls through to MS to do a live report, which took 40 minutes. Each phone call took 40 minutes to get through. It was that tough. And like everyone else, it was an absolute disbelief. And there were people who were crying. There were people who were, I would say visibly agitated, because we were still quite a ways north of this. And as we continued to move south, that's when we started to see, people running. There were certain emergency personnel who were also running opposite direction as we were, saying, out of there, get out of there.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? Buildings are coming down all over the place. I mean, it was true pandemonium at the time. And I think it was probably about a block and a half, maximum 2 blocks, where don't ask me why. At the time, I was looking up and immediately noticed that the second tower was coming down. And I had to crane my neck. I remember I had to crane my neck directly to the sky to watch that thing come down. And again, I didn't know why I didn't move. I didn't move.
How close were you?
Less than 2 blocks, block and a half, which means you're really under it, you know.
Oh,
you
yeah,
look up.
exactly.
So as I was looking up, I remember it was silent. It was very quiet. I couldn't hear a thing, and I couldn't figure out why it was so quiet as I was watching it come down. And all this transpired in all, I think, 6.5 seconds it took for the towers to come down, second tower to come down in any case. And I remember at the very last minute thinking, if that's coming down, it's coming down here.
Oh,
Run. Just run. And the first thing I thought of was just turn a corner, because maybe the debris will bypass you if you could turn a corner. I probably got about, 6 steps before the debris cloud hit. And that debris cloud, it's almost like, it's almost as though it's one of the clearest things in my mind, even though there was real terror involved in this. I mean, things happen quickly, things happen slowly, and I can't explain why, but I remember feeling the debris hit the back of my head, and I remember the feeling of my ears bending forward, and immediately it went black, like midnight. And so I had an extra shirt around my shoulders, and I took it off and wound it around my mouth so I could try to breathe, but for whatever reason, the amount of debris that was in the air, perhaps a vacuum that had been created because of this falling debris, because of this enormous pressure that had built up in those tiny little streets inside of Manhattan, it became extremely difficult to breathe. And the person I was with, we had seen before it went completely black, that we were at a glass doorway to a building that was locked. And we just kicked it in, to try to seek shelter, and got into an alcove of a building and rode it out in there, and within minutes saw a figure appear at the door, and it was a New York City police officer who was trying to get in, hitting on the door, and for a brief moment, you think, do I let that person in and potentially die because all that debris is coming in too, and our only sort of respite will have been, overcome, and we just let him in, right away, and then there was one behind him, and of course the fear was that there was going to be a line of people trying to get in, and we'd all suffer for this one. So the next one was a security guard from the World Trade Center, and the four of us. Here's some photographs from that day. It's pretty hard to look at them now because it brings back the sheer feeling of fear and terror. And I got another call through at that moment to MSNBC, and I remember the person who answered it. I broke into tears and said, "Do not drop this call. Don't drop the call." Because it took 40 minutes or so to make it, and it was what I assumed was my lifeline.
How long were you in that?
In that alcove? Couldn't have been more than about, 10 minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes before we started to see a little daylight out there, and assumed that it would be at least safe to emerge, because of course the fear was that they were all coming down. Get the hell out of here, who knows what's next, I don't think we thought the calamity was over, and there was this moonscape, and everything was so unusual and silent. Everything was silent, except for those pass alarms on the firefighters. That terrible chirping sound that I'm sure you'll remember hearing in the news coverage, the chirping sound. We didn't know what that was. We couldn't figure out what the chirping sound was. I assumed that it was maybe car alarms, cars that had been crushed, and from underneath the debris, the car alarms were going off, but it was firefighters who were down. Once it's an automatic response system that they have on them. Once they're down for, I think, more than a minute, the alarms go off so that you can find them in a smoky situation.
Have you suffered any respiratory problems?
No, I didn't, and I was very concerned about these recent reports that there may have been some misleading from the federal government regarding the air quality downtown. Now, I only spent, the better part of 10 days.
Well, it was a report from Hillary Clinton, so...
I spent the better of 10 days down at Ground Zero following the attacks, and of course, all of that morning. So I did have some concern. I haven't had a problem, but then again, I suffered all sorts of different ailments over in Afghanistan that were, inexplicable, so I had bigger concerns on my mind. Certain ailments that I had biopsies for, that they never discovered, what they were, and that's pretty common among a lot of NBC, staffers who've been in Iraq, who've been in a lot of the war zones that we've covered over the years. They come back with mysterious ailments. Never do quite get an answer for them.
Jesus. It's coming up on 19 minutes now till the hour. The 8 Children's Chorus, I don't know which one, Bernard, of course, has left the studio. He's going to perform the Star Spangled Banner here in about a minute. And then we're talking with Ashley Banfield from NBC News. about who did extraordinary reporting under, unbelievable circumstances when the Trade Center came down. Now, we got about 45 seconds before they're scheduled to sing here. The second tower the first tower had come down before you went down, right?
No, I watched it come down, probably from about 30,
the first
34
tower.
blocks. Yeah, first tower came down when I was about 30 blocks away.
Lives about, 10 blocks from there? Still does.
Yeah.
And was on the phone with us for the entire morning. And, God, it was a day, I can still hear his voice. Describing, because his wife had noticed they're out on the terrace and a plane had flown over, and she thought, man, that plane's flying awfully low over Manhattan, and the next thing you know, it flew into the building. Not that it's amusing, but it's not.
I remember one of the things that was toughest was taking off over Manhattan after the attacks, and it was only, I think I left 10 days after the attacks for Pakistan. And my producer and I, John Zito, who, God bless him, he wrote it out too. He was down there as well with Ron and Sana. It was terrifying for both of us, sort of to get up in a plane again, and especially going over that smoldering pit.
There's going to be a moment of silence observed at the U.S. Senate and around the world at 8:46. The kids are singing now. It's coming up. Covering the ceremonies that are being performed at Ground Zero, and Mayor Bloomberg is going to speak in a moment. That was a local children's choir singing the Slow Langabana. I recognized it.
Today again, we are a city that mourns. We come here to honor those that we lost and to remember this day with sorrow. But we also remember with pride. And from that comes our resolve to go forward. Our faces and hopes turn towards the future. In keeping with this, the children of our city and the children who lost loved ones will lead our ceremonies. It is in them that the spirit of New York lives, carrying both our deepest memories and the bright promise of tomorrow. And now, please join us and all New Yorkers in a moment of silence.
Pentagon was on the 88th floor of the World Trade Center. I wanted to read you this poem because it says what I was feeling. Stars. I like the way they look down from the sky and didn't seem to mind the way I cried. I didn't say I wiped away those tears, but tell us, what's the matter here? But shining through the dark, they calmly stayed and gently held me in their quiet way. I felt them watching over me, each one, and let me cry and cry till I was done.
Last year, when he was America's Poet Laureate, Billy Collins wrote a poem he called The Names, about the 2,792 who perished that day. Here are its closing lines. Names etched on the head of a pin. One name spanning a bridge, another undergoing a tunnel. A blue name needled into the skin. Names of citizens, workers, mothers and fathers. The bright-eyed daughter, the quick son. Alphabet of names in a green field. Names in the small tracks of birds. Names lifted from a hat or balanced on the tip of the tongue. Names wheeled into the dim warehouse of memory. So many names. There is barely room on the walls of the heart.
Gordon M. Ahmed Jr. Edelmiro Abad. Maria Rose Abad. Andrew Anthony Abate.
They've arranged now for these children to read the names of all of the victims who died.
Lawrence.
I guess in just the World Trade Center or in Pentagon in Pennsylvania. And
I don't know how many are going to be included here.
I'm sure. We're talking with Ashley Banfield. We have a bunch of spots to do. Ashley, as the years go by on this day, what will be the one memory that...
I think, Rudy Giuliani probably put it best. You think about where you were that day and the people you lost. I think if you're in New York City, it's not uncommon to say that you have a couple of friends, at least one, who died in the Trade Center. I have two. And, my college roommate is down there right now because his wife died that morning. So he's listening in for her name right now. And it's tough, It's really tough to go through this every year.
You ever expect to cover anything like this again?
I expect to cover big stories. And this is a big story for us. There are very big stories for other people overseas as well. And I don't expect to cover anything that surprises us this much. But I do expect that it's not the last.
Thanks very much for taking time to come over here. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Good to see you.
Ashley Banfield here on the Imus-9 program.
Our sadness, the surge of love for our country, our anger, and our determination to right this huge wrong. Today, the wrong is being righted, and justice is being done.
All right, 9 minutes till the hour. Mohegan Sun wants you to take your home your share of $350,000 in cash this month in their master win game.
Colonel Imus.
How are you, sir?
All right, I'm here.
Do you still live in the same place?
No, we moved about 6 months ago.
Where did you move?
Upper West Side.
You live up near me now.
Yeah, that's right.
You want to come over?
No.
No? As you, how are you?
Okay.
I see you doing sports, Channel 2, all the time.
Good. Thank you.
My wife, every time you're on, she says, "There's your friend on TV." I said, "Okay,
Oh, that's nice.
Don't get hysterical on here, okay?
Very nice.
Well, so what are your thoughts on today, and what were they last year, and are they different than they were last year? First, your thoughts today.
I think, well, this is just, of course, my personal feeling. I actually was going to make an effort today not to turn on the television. I think anyone that saw it in person, it'll never leave their mind. Just the whole thing, just watching the two towers disappear. It was right outside our bedroom.
I should explain that on that morning, Warner Wolf was at his apartment about 10 blocks from the World Trade Center and was on the phone with us and provided an eyewitness account of everything that happened, including the second plane flying into the second tower, and then, of course, the towers coming down, and was on the phone with us for hours and hours, and performance, not the right word, but provided one of the more riveting accounts of any event I believe I've ever heard. So, anyway, I guess I should explain to the people in Albuquerque or Tucson or whatever, why we're talking. So, anyway, I'm sorry.
All right. I just, to this day, I turn my head if someone shows on television those two towers. I just, there's no point for me to see it. I'm not saying that people shouldn't remember it, of course, my gosh. But I don't need to see it to remember it again. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just, it's funny, it's hard to believe that it's 2 years.
Seems like 2 years to me.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes time goes by and you think, God, where did the time go? But it's funny how the events you remember from that day, and I just always think of you. Well, I thank you for a couple of reasons. September 11th and what you did to us when you left to go back to Channel 2 and stuck us with Sid. So. But it's interesting you didn't move out of the city. A lot of...
Oh, no.
We haven't either, so...
No, I love the city. No, in fact, we would still be where we were, but somebody offered to buy the apartment, so we accepted. But,
everything else all right with you?
Yeah. I'm sorry I'm not more...
No, don't be silly.
I guess I
didn't expect you to,
I just... I don't know. I guess it's the same, and I'm sure other people feel the same way. If you... I guess the point I'm making, when you... And I think I remember saying it then. When you see something in person, no matter how many times you see it on television, there's just no comparison. That's all. It's just
it's like going to a football game or watching one on TV.
Well, all right.
Probably a clumsy analogy,
yeah.
But
except it's a tragedy. There's just I think sometimes, not to get analytical here, but I think you try to shut down bad memories. Because if I start talking about them, I think, I think that people, I think the two things that I hadn't talked about this in a while. I think the two things, one, those towers were right in front of my face. I mean, I saw them every day. They were just part of my life. And when I saw them go down, You know, it's like you're not seeing. This is real. The other thing was see people jump out of them.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's like, so I don't think I'll be, I think I'll be doing other things. No disrespect to...
No, believe me, I understand. Believe me, I do.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much, Warner.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
All right.
Warner Wolf here in the Amherst Marine program. He's one of the leading sportscasters in the country. He does it on Channel 2 here in New York.
Icon.
Yeah, he's an icon.
Absolutely.
But I can see how he does. I can see how he feels because he did see it, and he not only did he see it, but he had to talk about it for hours.
As a whole thing unfolded right in front of him, as he said, in his face.
He described to us what was happening as it was happening, and so in addition to the shock of seeing the World Trade Center come down, and these buildings they stuck up a quarter a mile in the air, 440 yards in the air, a quarter of a mile.
Yeah.
So it took Michael Johnson, almost a minute to run that far. Well, I guess under 45 seconds probably, but that's a long time. And they came down in like 6 seconds, or whatever it was. So,
Believable. Still.
I don't know. I don't know what I think. I don't know what I think. 17 up the hour.
After all that has just passed, all the lives taken and all the possibilities and hopes that died with them, it is natural to wonder if America's future is one of fear. Some speak of an age of terror. I know there are struggles ahead and dangers to face. But this country will define our times, not be defined by them. As long as the United States of America is determined and strong, this will not be an age of terror. This will be an age of liberty here and across the world.
No, thanks. I can do it myself. I'm fine. No problem. Well, that was bent over a balcony at a New York City hotel.
That's your rumor.
That's not a rumor. That is substantiated.
Friends suggest the couple, especially Affleck, might be having doubts about committing to each other. I mean, the friends aren't necessarily all named, but nevertheless...
Named out you have sit every day.
No, there you go.
Listen, I think they're going to get married, and I think it just comes down to the media coverage, and they don't want all this aggravation.
God, who cares?
Yeah,
God,
you're right.
who cares?
You're
Starting to look
right.
like somebody more and more to him that cleans your house or something, and he's just getting tired of it.
What's this now?
Looks like any other girl you see on the 6 train in the Bronx.
Ben is waking up. I mean, he's described here by somebody who was planning to go and was told, no, don't come, it's off. Said, I think the romance will survive. However, Ben is having real second thoughts. That's the quote.
He's gotta have.
Those strippers are looking real good at the
like-
club.
Oh.
He's not getting any shekels out of it.
He doesn't need the money, Bernie. The guy's
No,
worth
I know
about
that.
$50 million.
That's what I'm saying. So he's thinking, why do I have to marry this, this Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx if I'm not getting any money out of it?
26 after the hour, 27
Yo,
now.
Ben, why you gotta talk like that? Yo, I could be the mother of your kids one day.
That's exactly how she talks in real life.
And by the way,
Come on.
the day the movie office stopped coming, she weighs 400 pounds.
Oh, easy.
Oh, yeah.
They're just well, her first kid. How about when she becomes pregnant for the first time?
Oh! She's got an ass under the size of a truck,
Serena Williams booty.
Oh,
Jesus God.
Yo, let me tell you what happened was I was going to get my period on the day of the wedding, so I had to postpone it because I'll get bloated like that. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't go through with this.
Whatchamacallit? What's going on in sports?
How she sounds, too. The Yankees won last night, man. They blitzed the Tigers 15-5, the final score. And the Red Sox also won last night, so the lead remains 3.5 in the American League East. Also, a couple of important scores from last night. The Cubs lost, blew it in the 8th inning against the Expos. The Astros won. So Houston now has a one-game lead, man, over the Cubs in the NL Central. And last night, Minnesota defeated the White Sox. So the White Sox lead has been slimmed to one game in the AL Central.
Wyatt Imus got sick last night.
No.
Throwing up, so I was up till, his mother and I were up till 2 this morning, so.
Get your bathrobe on. What are you doing to the poor kid?
Sounds like my night.
So, early, before he started throwing up, he's in a bathroom, and I'm in there, and I said, Wyatt, I said, guess what, I'm taking my first chess lesson tomorrow. He said, Dad, could you take it down a couple notches? I'm sick.
Did he really put it that way?
I said, what? He said, could you take it down a couple notches? I'm sick. That's exactly what he said.
Oh, boy.
That's a quote. I couldn't believe that he was saying. I mean,
Did you?
take it down?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. What are you going to do?
Right.
I mean, I laughed for 30 minutes, so. Anyway.
That's great.
Could you take it down a couple notches? I'm sick.
Yeah, really, come on. And get your teeth out of this thing. Because it's making me sick.
Boy, I passed my underwear.
I'm going to lose my animal crackers here in a minute.
No, man. Easy, well, whatever. So, it's 29 after the hour.
I've had choices since the day that I was born. There were voices that told me right from wrong. If I had to listen, no, I wouldn't be here today, living and dying with the choices I've made. I was tempted. By an early age I found I liked drinking. Oh, and I never turned it down. There were loved ones, but I turned them all away. Now I'm living and dying with the choices I've made. I've had choices since the day that I was born. There were voices that told me right from wrong. If I had to listen, I wouldn't be here today, living and dying with the choices I've made.
Which is a working cattle rancher with cancer. Please welcome now to the Imus Morning program. He was supposed to be on earlier, but because of September 11th, he's in his 9:29 time slot, but he'll be on earlier next week and thereafter.
Right.
He won 2 Super Bowls for the New York Giants. He played one of them.
Yep.
The other one he was just walking around with a boo-boo. Phil Simms, good morning, Mr. Simms.
Now, why do you always have to say that?
Wasn't that what happened?
Well, yeah, but, you know, it's past history. I won 2. You know, I got 2 rings. I did have a boo-boo.
Well, so
I was
the equipment
walking around.
manager.
You're right there, too.
So the equipment manager, he's got 2 rings.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So does the
I guess that puts it in perspective, so.
So does the guy in sales and marketing. Yeah.
No, they don't. They don't give those things away to everybody. No,
Okay.
they don't do that. So how's everybody doing today?
Fine, how are you?
I'm doing well. I've been watching the show, and of course 9/11. It's reliving that. It's tough for everybody. So, but
Where were you? I know I've asked you this, but I forget.
I was just sitting at home watching TV.
That's right.
I had it on TV, and I saw it, and I went, "What was that?" And I just figured, you know, something blew up in one of the offices. You know,
Exactly
because when
what we
you see
thought.
it, the scale the buildings they're so big that I never even thought that it was a plane. And then you realize it. And I just sat there. Of course, I sat right at my kitchen counter, and I don't think I moved the whole day. I sat there and watched the TV, and just there was nothing you could do or say.
Yeah, we talked to everybody this morning. Such a Warren Wolf, who, boy, he really provided riveting coverage for us because he lived about 10 blocks from there, on the top of the building, his building, and he was on the phone with us, and he provided coverage for hours.
Wow.
And he saw the towers come down. I'll remember that voice. You know, he's got a pretty famous voice anyway, but I mean, I'll just remember that as long as I live. I mean, it's one of those voices that, you know, you never forget. So it's like,
you know, just thinking about that, I watched it on TV, but I can't imagine the impact it would have on you to see it in person.
That's what he said.
That is totally a whole different story, perspective, and yeah, that would. I'm sure there's many nights that he sits at home, and I'm sure there's many nights that he dreams about it. You know, that's an image you'll never get off your mind. And there's not a day that goes by that anybody that lives in the New York area. I just was on the phone with a friend of mine, and I said, you're constantly reminded of. You meet somebody.
Sure.
There's a story. You know, you listen to the radio. I listened to the radio yesterday, and I hear Boomer Esiason, he's talking sports, but 9/11 comes up. You know, he had an office up in one of the buildings, and you just go, wow. It was, of course, it was tragic, and it'll never be forgotten.
Well, Boomer was intimately involved in that. He had an office up on the 103rd floor, I believe.
Yeah.
And, you know, Boomer has done remarkable, wonderful work with a lot of the widows, and I forget the name of that firm.
Cantor Fitzgerald.
Cantor Fitzgerald.
Cantor Fitzgerald.
That's where his office is. Boomer was and has been and continues to be. I haven't talked to him in a while because I'm feuding with him.
Are you?
Well, I was. Yeah, I'm not anymore. But he really went the extra mile. A lot of people don't know this, that the financial support, moral support, and other support that he provided to a lot of these families.
Yeah, you know, and I got to think about it. Listen, I like making fun of Boomer too. You know, and I try to almost every game we do. I have to talk about him in the pregame show or something, say something about him. But I think more and more, I just think by saying he does great work for his young son's charity, cystic fibrosis, and he does the Cantor Fitzgerald. What he did there, you know, he's a giving person. He's done a lot of good for a lot of people, and I don't think you can ever lose sight of that.
It's like Francesa. A lot of people don't know about Francesa stuff. I mean, he gets mad and would be mad now even. But some of the stuff he does is unbelievable. That nobody knows about.
Yeah.
And he's pretty liberal with his money too, by the way. So.
Oh, he is, huh?
Oh man.
Oh. I might have to try to get some of that this golf outing. Is he going to play in this golf outing again this year?
Yeah. Yeah, he and Dog are I'm not gonna play. I'm just.
You're just gonna come and be the captain.
Yeah, because I can't play, and I've been humiliated too many times, and I can humiliate myself on my own.
Yeah, I hear you. So no, this will be better because now you can sit back and just commentate and really rag on everybody.
Yeah, so
that's the way to do it.
I'm gonna pick two people to play against him and Chris. It'll probably be you and that lady from the LPGA, Susie Whaley. You're Lupica, and who's the better golfer, you or Lupica?
Well, Lupica plays probably 10 times as much golf as I do. Now, he'll call in and cry and say he doesn't, but it's just the truth.
Lupica's come up big under pressure, too. I mean, he doesn't always, but I mean, nobody always does. Tiger Woods doesn't always, but Lupica's been great.
Yeah, he's been good, and he's played well there. He hasn't played as good as me for you, but that's beside the point. We won't get into the particulars. But
because you're a professional athlete.
Yeah, so what's that mean when you play golf?
Well, it means you're accustomed to performing under pressure.
It just means I can curse at the ball better than most people. You know, so I've done it with the football, so I might as well do it with that thing. But it's going to be a 2-on-2. You're going to pick two, and they're going to play Chris and Mike.
Yeah. They want me to give them strokes, and I'm not going to give them any.
Oh, of course not.
So.
Well, they're professional sports talk show people.
Hey,
so they got to be somewhat athletic. Let them get out there and suck it up and do it.
I saw you and Greg Gumbel. He hadn't lost any weight. The guy's still a moose.
No, he is not. That's not true, and you know it.
Well, no, I don't know. No, I don't know it.
He is trimmed down tremendously. In fact, I just found, he's very quiet about a lot of things, but he works out 3 times a week. He's lost over 20 pounds, and he doesn't, He wasn't a big drinker to begin with. Now he doesn't drink.
You know what I thought? I thought it was you and Star Jones doing it football.
Well, you know, I come to the game in Kansas City, and it's a pretty neat scene out there because there's so many people around. And we pull up in a car, and I'm in the car with Greg Gumbel and Armin Katayan, and we get out of the car, and they're honoring some war heroes out there. And it looks like all the wives of these war heroes are there. And I would say they range from 75 to 85 years old. As we got out of the car, one of the older women looked at Armin Katayan, and she turns to the lady next to her and says, "Look, Mabel, it's George Clooney." And oh my gosh, I said, "You gotta be kidding." I had an Imus moment. I looked at her and I said, "Are you drunk? What is wrong with you?" But, Armin Katayan, he was in glory for the rest of the day. George Clooney, and so it was a pretty funny moment. But go back to your original story. Greg is definitely trimmed up. So, of course, so is his brother. He's lost tremendous amounts of weight.
Well, he's probably on a hunger strike till he gets a job.
I don't think he's worried about his next job.
Hey, is there a football game tonight?
No, there is not.
Oh, there's not.
I'm sure there's a college game on Thursday night. That's all there is. There's no pro game on tonight, no.
What game are you guys doing Sunday?
We're going to New England. We're doing New England. I shouldn't say. We're going to Philadelphia. New England at Philadelphia. So we got two teams that failed to score a point last week.
Oh.
So the tension will be tremendous.
I heard Mike and Chris, whenever it was, could have been yesterday or the day before, fielding a bunch of calls from people who were claiming that Donovan McNabb essentially just can't and couldn't. Well, he demonstrated he couldn't on that one game, but more importantly, couldn't and can't get it done. Is that that he's not smart enough to be quarterback? I mean, that's what they were saying.
Oh no, that is so. Donovan McNabb is a very intelligent person. So he really is, and to ever suggest that otherwise is preposterous.
I mean, I always think it's. I'm being serious. I always think it's racial.
Sure, it is.
When I hear stuff like that, but.
Well, when guys do say that, and when they have that undertone, it is. I think it is racial, and the NFL has like a formula. When you come into the league, you basically take IQ test, and they have like a cutoff grade for quarterbacks, and if you don't get past a certain test score, it's held against you tremendously because it means you probably can't learn, the complicated systems and learn week to week because there is a tremendous amount of learning that goes on. So, but Donovan McNabb scored very high in that test.
For those people who don't think Donovan McNabb is smart enough, I would point out some of the other people who have been successful quarterbacks in the NFL. Sonny Jurgensen, Billy Kilmer, Phil Simms.
Yeah, there you go.
Boomer Esiason.
Yeah, okay, throw him in there too, thank you. Absolutely.
No, Joe Namath wasn't a genius,
Yeah, he's pretty damn smart.
No.
He pulled the wool over a lot of people's eyes and a lot of things, so good for him.
But so is, I thought, but Mike and Chris, Mike particularly agreed that Donovan McNabb, that it was idiotic to be suggesting that Donovan McNabb was not smart enough to play quarterback. I mean, come on, hello.
It really is, and the other thing is too. Let's don't forget they were playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their defense. If Donovan McNabb went out there and had a great night against the Buccaneers, they were going to score 17 to 20 points, and he still wasn't going to have tremendous stats because people always forget. You got to look at the competition when you're out there, and the competition for him was extremely, extremely tough.
Well, that's a defense that you're starting to talk about, the Ravens and Chicago Bears, those great defenses,
Yeah, everybody does, but we all jump to these...
I heard Francesca say that, by the way.
Yeah, everybody, I know this, but everybody wants to label everything too quickly. It's great, it's this. To be really considered great, you got to do it over a long period of time, and the Buccaneers, it was a tremendous year last year, and if they win a Super Bowl this year and then have a tremendous year after that, then you go, okay, now you say it's one of the better ones that's ever played in the NFL.
We got just about a minute here, and we'll stop wasting your time.
That is your team, though, right? I heard this.
Oh.
I didn't realize. The
Yes,
Tampa
it
Bay
is.
Buccaneers are your team.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the Giants.
And the Giants.
Yeah.
What about the AFC? You got a team in the AFC?
No. Yes? I don't know who's in the AFC.
The AFC, well, let's see, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Indianapolis Colts. You a big Peyton Manning fan?
I don't like those. I like him fine, but no.
No. Denver?
No, I kind of like Denver.
Yeah, the Raiders maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, Bernie?
Sid's saying the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's my AFC team? No, they're not. Hey, my final question here. Monday night's game.
Yeah.
Cowboys with Bill Parcells and the Giants with, among other people, Jeremy Shockey, who called Bill Parcells a homo. My question for you is, you play for Parcells, is he a homo?
Well, no, I don't think so.
Well, okay.
I don't think he is, no.
Is that going to be an ugly game, or?
No, of course not. No, it's like, well, no, it's not going to be ugly. It'll be a pretty good game, but the Giants are
going to kill them.
They're not going to kill them. If they win by 3 points, the Giants will be happy. But
the Giants will win by 2 touchdowns.
By 2 touchdowns,
yeah.
huh?
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't like to bet, but I'd bet on that.
Well, I don't want to bet,
okay,
because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, hell, neither do I. Nobody can pick these games, but I will say this: the Giants, even though the Cowboys are not as good as them, the Giants, because of Bill Parcells, that will give them an emotional lift, and the fans are going to be crazy. It's going to be a tremendous atmosphere. It's going to be, of course, saying all that, it's going to be very hard for the Cowboys to come up here and really play well.
Which game are you and Star doing?
Well, we be down there in Philadelphia.
Okay. Well, you just told me that. You just told me that.
I did, but that's you're having a moment. That's okay.
No, I have those about every 5 minutes.
We all do. I get them too now.
All right, man. It's fun to talk with you. Earlier next week so your mom can see you.
All right, good. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Phil.
See ya.
Phil Sims here on the Imus Morning Program, 11 till the hour.
Darling, you send me. I know you send me. Darling, you send me. Honest you do, honest you do.